From beyond the furthest reaches of the galaxy come the Tyranids, an alien race controlled by a hive mind that consume all they come across. Their numbers are seemingly infinite, and their hive fleets have left countless worlds as naught but barren, lifeless rocks. The reason for their arrival is unknown, whether searching for fresh prey or fleeing a mightier foe, but their effect on the eastern and southern regions of our galaxy has been devastating. Whilst almost every organism is nameless and expendable in the eyes of the hive mind, there are some creatures who have become infamous amongst the races who have attempted to halt the great devourer's advance. Today, we shall be briefly covering the Tyranid race as a whole, before looking into what little information has been collated on the pseudo-legendary monsters birthed from the spawning pools of the hive fleets. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and welcome to 40k Stories. The Tyranids are an extragalactic race who entered our galaxy from across its eastern and southern regions. The first confirmed contact with the Tyranids came on the planet of Tyran, which is how they got their name, a former ocean world on the eastern fringe in 745 M41. When the Tyranids from Hive Fleet Behemoth arrived in the galaxy, they consumed many unpopulated worlds in systems near to Tyran in order to collect the necessary biomass to launch an assault. This left a large amount of dead worlds which, whilst noted during the Imperial census, was not further investigated by the Administratum, written off as an error or simply the incomprehensible nature of the galaxy. Whatever the case, by the time Hive Fleet Behemoth descended on Tyran Primus, it was fully replenished from its long journey by the biomass it had consumed. The planet was not entirely in the dark as to their impending doom, however. A survey ship had encountered the Hive Fleet whilst performing the census, and was able to reach Tyran Primus just a few days before the Great Devourer arrived. This did not help in the long run, however, as the Hive Fleet was at full strength and so almost unstoppable, which meant the isolated ocean world soon shared the fate of the nearby systems in being consumed. Tyran Primus' fate was stored in a data codex by Magos Varnak of the Adeptus Mechanicus and buried deep within what remained of his formerly impregnable fortress, where it was discovered about a year later by Inquisitor Cryptman of the Ordo Xenos. Without this codex and Cryptman's work in returning it to the Imperium, it is possible that Tyran Primus would have simply been another lost, forgotten world, and the Ultramarines would have been destroyed by the attack of Hive Fleet Behemoth in the battle for Macragge. A Tyranid invasion is perhaps unlike any other, before, during and after the Hive Fleet's initial assault. Before the Tyranids even arrive in system, an envelope of psychic power smothers warp-based communication or travel. This is the shadow in the warp, and it leaves any world unfortunate enough to be in the path of the Hive Fleet isolated and unable to raise the alarm, especially in the case of Imperial worlds. Meanwhile, hidden gene-stealer cults birthed decades in advance rise up to weaken and distract the planetary defences, diminishing the already finite resources available to the valiant defenders before the true enemy has even engaged them. These cultists also seed the planet with Tyranid organisms which rapidly mutate the flora, fauna, and chemical structures of the planet in order to aid the Hive Fleet's consumption of the world. Only then does the true foe arrive. The skies turn black as the sun is blocked by millions of winged organisms and mycetic spores, basically Tyranid drop pods, rain down from above. Each individual organism is weak and generally useless, but that doesn't matter when they outnumber the enemy by 50 or more to 1 and are controlled by the hive mind through a synaptic linchpin. Alongside the teeming hordes stride monstrous behemoths larger than a battle tank, from the Carnufex to the gargantuan biotitans. At the same time, creatures such as Ravenous and Morlocks burrow beneath the ground, enabling another front to be opened behind the enemy via tunnels utilized by many of the smaller organisms. The entire Tyranid army fights as a cohesive whole as long as synaptic control is maintained, overrunning the enemy in close combat. Only once the planet's defenders have been almost totally destroyed does the invasion enter the final phase. Capillary towers are formed on the surface of the planet and even on the bottom of the oceans, to which untold numbers of rippers will come, having gorged themselves on the world's resources while the warriors still fight. They throw themselves into the towers, being consumed along with their precious resources until the hive mind calls for it. New Rippers are spawned, and the process repeats until the planet is completely barren, devoid of resources on the surface or even within the rock itself, as all the minerals are extracted. Once the defenders are finally dead, the entire horde of Tyranids share the Ripper's fate as they are consumed by these towers. The seas and even the atmosphere are consumed in turn, and the towers connect to the Hive fleet above, transferring the resources they've stored during the invasion. With their purpose served, the towers are then reassimilated into the Hive fleet to ensure the hive mind gets every scrap of biomass and information necessary to adapt and survive. The fleet then moves on, with their stocks refueled and more knowledge to increase their chances of survival. Such is the nature of the Tyranids: consume, adapt, repeat. The Tyranids are nameless, as the hive mind cares not for the independence or individuality of the creatures it controls, but some have gained monikers from those they have faced for their actions during battle. The mightiest of them all, and perhaps the only one who has a true personality amongst the Tyranids, is the Swarm Lord. In appearance, the beast is a Hive Tyrant, one of the leaders who command and control the endless swarm, but the Swarm Lord is far beyond the creatures with which it shares its appearance. It is the pinnacle of evolution for the Hive Tyrant, one of a kind as both warrior and commander. The creature is immortal in a way. If the physical body is somehow destroyed or is no longer needed, its consciousness and memories are reabsorbed by the hive mind until it is needed again. When the time comes, the Swarm Lord's body is reborn by the Norn Queen at the heart of the Hive fleet that needs it, with all the memories of its previous existences fully integrated into it to make it an even greater and more dangerous foe than before. One might question why the Swarm Lord is not present in every Tyranid assault, as the creature is almost certainly the most potent leadership weapon at the hive mind's disposal. It is currently theorized by the autobiologists that the Swarm Lord is spawned as some form of stress-induced response when the hive mind is in need of a way to think outside of the box to crack a particularly difficult defense. In this way, the Swarm Lord appears to be the only Tyranid organism capable of any free will and independent thought whilst in range of the hive mind's dominion, as it is used to create new strategies to defeat the enemy which a normal Tyranid is incapable of doing. Perhaps its creation in times of dire need is because its permanent existence in physical form would allow it to devise methods to turn on the hive mind, and its assimilation is a contingency against it. This is unlikely, but whatever the case, the appearance of the Swarm Lord is testament to both the defending force's tenacity and the adaptability of the Tyranid race that their leaders can crack an unbreakable foe in very short order. The Swarm Lord first appeared on Tyran, assumedly testing the galactic waters to learn about humanity, before almost killing Marneus Calgar of the Ultramarines in the battle for Macragge, though the Lord of Ultramar did best the beast later in the conflict. Currently the Swarm Lord is believed to be with the Hive fleets attacking the Orcs of Octarius, meaning that its unique bone sabers may have clashed with Ghazghkull Thraka as well during his time there. One of the most ubiquitous monsters amongst the Tyranids is the Carnufex. Whilst it is not the largest beast in the hive mind's menagerie, the Carnufex is extremely powerful as a living battering ram, especially when combined into broods of multiple creatures together. The Carnufex is also no synapse creature. It has no psychic potential or ability to dominate other creatures, further reinforcing the simple yet brutal role it fulfills. The only quote-unquote leader Carnufex is the legendary Old One-Eye. One-Eye was part of Hive Fleet Behemoth during the invasion of Calth, a world with its surface blasted to ruin by the solar radiation following the Horus Heresy and the battle between the Ultramarines and the Word-Bearers. At the time, it still had both eyes, but a nameless or forgotten Imperial hero burned its eye out with their plasma pistol, bringing the Carnufex down and leaving it with a permanent plasma burn across its face, and of course, just one eye. The body was frozen in Calth's ice packs and forgotten after the Hive Fleet was defeated, though Behemoth still went on to devastate swathes of Ultramar and even hit Macragge. All would have been well if smugglers hadn't accidentally stumbled upon the Carnufex's body and thawed it out, believing it would fetch them a pretty penny or two. Unbeknownst to them, Old One-Eye was one of the first, if not the first Carnufex capable of regeneration, and so the dead but somehow not dead creature began to heal at an alarming rate. With the hive mind no longer present on Calth, One Eye reverted to instinctual Carnufex behavior and went on a murderous, mindless rampage. Sensing One Eye's power, other Tyranids who had survived and hidden on Calth, such as Genestealers and Termagants, joined in the assault even though the Carnufex held no synaptic control over them. One Eye was eventually stopped again when Scout Sergeant Telian's forces arrived to liberate Calth. Despite his inability to penetrate the armor, Telian performed a Deus Ex Machina once-in-a-lifetime shot through the creature's empty eye socket. Seemingly, the advanced biology of One Eye was unable to regenerate its lost eye, despite how powerful it was. One Eye stumbled into a ravine, but the kill was never confirmed as the body was never found, despite a rigorous search. From then on, a Carnufex matching One Eye's description has been reported in both Ultramar and the wider galaxy, though it has never been confirmed as One Eye itself. The Carnufex's fate is unknown, but if the tales are true, it has died many, many times, and is a mark of the hive mind's power that the creature's regeneration has kept on bringing it back. The Lichte is a scout creature, used to seek out fresh prey and leave a pheromone trail used by the other Tyranids to attack the new target. They are borderline invisible thanks to their chameleon-like carapaces and can function as assassins due to their ability to move soundlessly through terrain whilst being hidden from sight, as well as assimilating the information their target holds by literally consuming their memories. None embody this last aspect of the Lichte more than the Death Leaper, a unique strain of Lichte created to be the hive mind's ultimate assassin. Created by Hive Fleet Leviathan, the third and seemingly final major hive fleet to enter the galaxy, Death Leaper is both killer and terror tool, sent in ahead of a hive fleet in order to break the will of the defenders before the rest of the bugs even arrive. The Death Leaper can drive its victims to paranoia and madness without ever appearing before them, as evidenced in the only known engagement in which the creature was present. On the shrine world of St. Caspalan, Death Leaper orchestrated a solo campaign of terror against Cardinal Salem, spiritual leader of the world. Rather than kill the Cardinal, knowing the Imperials would martyr him if it did so, Death Leaper instead perfectly infiltrated the Cardinal's bunkers. Once inside, it killed everyone in the bunker aside from the Cardinal himself, leaving Salem drenched in the blood of his would-be protectors and fully aware that should it wish to, Death Leaper could kill him in a heartbeat. Despite ever-increasing security, this act was repeated for 10 days straight, and by then the Cardinal's mental state had deteriorated to the point of breaking the morale of the planetary defense forces who once revered their spiritual leader. With Death Leaper's task complete, Hive Fleet Leviathan came and consumed the world in very short order. The Death Leaper has not officially been seen since, assumedly having been reabsorbed by Leviathan until it is needed again. The genetic data is not available within the other hive fleets, as Leviathan was the last to develop it and has not been in contact with other fleets. It came from the south, not the east. However, if a particularly inspiring leader should prove to be identified as a roadblock, it is highly likely the assassin-cum-terror tool will be unleashed again. One thing to note, Death Leaper is not a synapse creature, nor was it controlled by another such beast at the time. As stated, it worked alone. This shows just how intelligent and cunning the Death Leaper is, capable of deep, independent thoughts without guidance or instruction to terrorize its unfortunate victims. Ravenous are snake-like creatures who specialize in subterranean assault and surprise attack. They are extremely fast, particularly underground, and have incredible senses in order to know when and where to strike, detecting movements in the ground above them. When they burst out from below, they swiftly cut down any foes who both stand against them or attempt to flee, able to catch or outrun almost any non-skyborne prey. They are also capable of identifying and tracing Vox and stealth field emissions, meaning that hidden forces or command bunkers are far from safe when a brood of Ravenous is around. All Ravenous are non-synapse creatures, with the base instincts of a hunter, but one of them did rise to an infamy beyond its lowly rank amongst the hive fleets, the Red Terror. This creature only officially appeared once on the world of Devlin on the eastern fringe. According to reports, the Red Terror killed 24 men in a seemingly solo attack on a starport before being driven back. It attacked again and again, and though it was continually repulsed, it was never killed, and developed a penchant for devouring the corpses of those it killed. It was even able to defeat and devour the search and destroy team sent specifically to hunt it, if the tales are true. The Red Terror never officially struck again, but a single ship fleeing Devlin made an automated landing on another world, Adri's Hope. The ship was in fact uninhabited by any Imperial citizens, as those on board had been slaughtered by an unknown beast that had since escaped the vessel. Within a month, Adri's Hope shared the same fate as the blood-soaked ship that landed on its surface, and whilst it cannot be proven, it is suspected that the creature responsible was in fact the Red Terror. This shows no intelligence on the Red Terror's part. Adri's Hope had no synapse creatures present, so the Ravenous simply acted on instinct, hunting down and killing all that it could. The nature of the Red Terror has also been questioned, as some claimed it was large as the Neo-Gargantuan Trigon or Morlock, both of which clearly share some genetic bond with Ravenous. It has been theorized that the Red Terror was the prototype for said creatures, or even for the Ravener itself, but unless the beast were to surface again, we will never truly know, and more than likely, it's for the best if it doesn't. The parasite of Mortrex is a winged Tyranid evolved from the Tyranid warriors. Unlike the Shrikes, who are basically Tyranid warriors with wings, the parasite was a unique experiment created by Hive Kraken to test a bioform who would infest its victims with Rippers. Rippers are the tiny creatures who feed the capillary towers late in a Tyranid invasion, as we discussed before, but they are far more than that. They are seemingly capable of evolving into other, larger Tyranid creatures, which implies that they are the Tyranid equivalent of human stem cells. They also pose a serious threat in large numbers, able to overrun and swarm their enemies in a tide of fangs. The parasite itself was tested on the world from which it is named, the fortress world of Mortrex. The Tyranids had become stuck, trapped on Mortrex, unable to break through the defences or make any inroads after almost 10 full days. The guardsmen soon came unstuck, however, when the creature dubbed the parasite attacked. Rather than swoop down and simply kill those it attacked, it would stab them with its tail before moving on. How it wasn't shot down given the amount of winged creatures the defenders had probably already dealt with is unknown. The tail was infested with Ripper parasites that infected those who were attacked, the parasites maturing in seconds before exploding from their victims, having devoured them from the inside out. With the living carpets of Rippers inside the defences and the threat of the parasite looming large, Mortrex was defeated within 2 weeks, and fully consumed not long after. The parasite has never been seen again, implying that Hive Kraken is simply waiting for the right time to use it, or has written it off as a failed experiment despite the great success on Mortrex. The Zoanthrope is an easily identifiable beast. With massive craniums and the ability to levitate, they are near unmissable among the Tyranid swarm. They are potent psychers all, supposedly created following the assimilation of Eldar DNA by the Hive Fleets, and are capable of matching or coming close to the children of Asayan in psychic level. They also, perhaps unsurprisingly, function as synaptic linchpins, using their psychic power to dominate lesser Tyranids and control their larger kin. An evolution of the Zoanthrope is the Neurothrope, capable of leeching life from their foes in order to power their already devastating attacks. It is believed that the Neurothropes are descendants from, or at least the spiritual successor to, the Doom of Malan'tai, responsible for an act so devastating to the Eldar it would make even Slaanesh jealous. The Doom of Malan'tai was created by Hive Fleet Naga, a relatively small Hive Fleet that came not long after Hive Fleet Behemoth into the Eastern Fringe. Whilst Naga was almost completely destroyed by a combined Eldar alliance a little over a decade after its arrival, though the Eldar did lose 9 worlds to Naga in the process, a lone bioship made a desperate last-gasp attack on Craftworld Malan'tai with all the remaining mycetic spores it had. Malan'tai's surviving defenders prioritized the leaders and monsters in the swarm, but failed to notice a lone unique Zoanthrope with a hood-like growth over its spine. The beast somehow infiltrated the infinity circuit containing the souls of Malan'tai's dead inhabitants and gorged on them. By the time the Eldar realized what had happened, the Zoanthrope was nigh unstoppable, and it wiped out the entirety of Malan'tai's populace single-handed, leaving the craft world lifeless, though Malan'tai itself was seemingly not consumed, implying the Tyranids simply cannot consume Wraithbone. The doom of Malan'tai has not been seen since, possibly because of Naga's eventual starvation and destruction, meaning it can no longer be reproduced. However, the presence of neurothropes does imply that later Hive fleets have been working on similar creations, and it may be that while the original doom itself is dead and gone, it can be made anew, and more terrifyingly, en masse. So ends the tale of the mightiest of the Tyranids. Whilst each of them only has a brief story to tell, for the sake of the galaxy, that is probably for the best. Should they be united or reborn in a combined Tyranid assault, the entirety of the Imperium and every other race may well find themselves on the menu. Next time on 40k Stories, we'll be staying out on the eastern fringe for a while longer, looking at the other Xenos race based out there and their various heroes. I hope you both enjoyed this video and can join me for the next one. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you all again. Goodbye.